Cool. Good morning, August 31st. Who are they that hold so much power over our lives? Orville Thompson. Grace was facing a major decision. She didn't want to go on living with her alcoholic husband. Grace knew that alcoholism is a disease, that her husband was a sick man who needed help, yet she now found it impossible to remain in the marriage. She wanted to be a wife, not a nurse. For years, she had remained in this dead, toxic relationship because of them. What would they say? How would she ever face them? They would never respect her again if she got a divorce. Gradually, Grace's support group maneuvered her into confronting the power of the nebulous they. Who exactly were they? Why were they so important? Was everyone she knew to be lumped into one generalized they? If not, would the reaction to her impending decision be the same for all of these people? In time, Grace came to understand that there is no universal they. Those who would criticize her decision were only one segment of they, and not an important one at that, and she became strong enough to think for herself. Her fears about what they might think began to weaken. By reclaiming her own power, she also reclaimed her self-esteem, as well as the genuine prospect of a happy new life. I am always at grave risk when I give my self-esteem over to the care of a generalized negative they. I am always at a grave risk when I give my self-esteem over to the care of a generalized negative they. Okay. So, when I started life coaching, one of the mind traps, one of the things, the programs that I wanted to reprogram once I spent a week kind of tracking my own thoughts was I realized I spend a lot of time explaining myself, my actions, and my choices to the generalized they, and I find myself being resentful of the process, and I didn't want to engage in it. And the first thing I learned was, when you spend a lot of time feeling as if you have to explain yourself, that is a result of general emotional abuse. And in the story, in Grace's situation, she didn't want to live with her alcoholic husband anymore. No, regardless of how kind a human being the person she was in a relationship might have been, alcoholics tend to be abusive in some way, shape, or form. And in my situation, my ex was extremely, extremely verbally abusive. And in my childhood, my mother was extremely, extremely controlling, and I was extremely sheltered. So, when I felt as if I was constantly having to explain myself to people who weren't even there, I was repeating patterns and preparing for abuse that I assumed was coming, regardless of whether or not it was going to happen. And at this point in my life, people don't question me. People generally do not question me. Nobody's coming at me personally and being like, "Why'd you do that, Caroline?" or "I can't believe you made that choice." People might judge me in their own personal time, and I could not care less. So when I find myself, and I still do it, and I'm still working on it, explaining my choices in my head, in preparation for having to, fill somebody else in on why I am living the way that I choose to live. Right? And it's really basic stuff, too. Why did I choose to do laundry on this day as opposed to this other day? But the abuse in the relationship I was in was constant at certain points. Literally just a constant barrage of really low-grade nitpicking about every single thing that I fucking did. So, when I go through my life and find myself explaining in my head to people who aren't there every single thing that I'm fucking doing, that is me replaying the process of preparing for abuse that, at this point, by myself, is not coming. It's not coming. And If there are people who continually question your decisions when you're living an otherwise happy, healthy life, those people are not allies, and those people are not friends. They're just not. Nobody has any right to question people who are living their lives productively. They really don't. So, I am at a grave risk when I give my self-esteem over to the care of a generalized negative they. And it does negatively impact my self-esteem when I find myself explaining myself to people who aren't there. Just the process of explaining yourself to people who aren't there is a result of having negative self-esteem. Nobody has to explain their decisions to anybody. We are all free to do whatever we want as long as it's not hurting anybody else, or even preferably not hurting ourselves in such a way that it creates a negative impact on the society around us. I am always at grave risk when I give my self-esteem over to the care of a generalized negative they. Bloop! That's the end of August. Ooh. I'm going to go finish eating my salad and drinking my coffee and having a Hobbit marathon because it's nice and rainy out right now, and that's something I like to do when it rains. Good morning. Have a good day.